Hi, I'm Conor Meade, and we're here today at the 2015 Canadian Science Policy Conference. And joining me today is Dr. Chandrika Nath, who's the Deputy Director of the UK Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology, which is an office of both Houses of Parliament providing the UK parliamentarians with independent, objective analysis of a wide range of public policy issues. So Dr. Nath, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So to get us started off, I wonder if you can tell us a bit about your work and a bit about your role at the Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology.
Yes, it's a pleasure to. It's a small office of both houses of the UK Parliament, so we work for the Commons and the Lords, and we're an internal office, and we're made up of, it's fairly small, so we have 8 science advisors and then a director and some admin staff, and our job really is to brief members of the UK Parliament on complex scientific and technological issues, so that when they come up in policy making, the parliamentarians are informed before they make a decision.
Excellent. So I wonder, could you tell us a little bit about what you think are some of the general best principles in evidence-based decision-making and in incorporating scientific advice in the policy-making process?
That's a big question. I'll give it a try. From the point of view of the Parliament, which is doing scrutiny of the government, so it's not actually generally formulating policy, but it's holding the government to account, the evidence needs are slightly different. So What's important is to understand evidence in context. So there's no such thing as a good piece of evidence or a bad piece of evidence. Everything has some value. So it's really important when you're providing evidence-based policy advice to take a middle road. So impartiality is absolutely key. Clarity as well, total transparency about what your sources are if you're giving advice. And making sure that you base what you give on reliable sources, so understanding where the source itself is coming from, how they came by their information. So clarity, objectivity, transparency.
Absolutely, thank you. So I wonder, could you also tell us a bit about your capacity building work in Africa?
Of course, so that started back in 2008. Throughout the past 10-15 years, we've had more and more requests from African parliamentarians and staff saying, how can we do what you do? Or sometimes we even get asked to write briefing papers for African parliamentarians, and of course we don't have the resource. So we decided to, we were offered some funding by the Gatsby Charitable Foundation to try out different methods in parliaments in Africa and just see what worked, because a setup that works in the UK won't necessarily work elsewhere. So we collaborated with the Ugandan Parliament, and we did quite a lot of different things. So we did training in how do you brief policymakers on scientific issues, and that involved training staff, so my counterparts in the Ugandan Parliament, on basic things like how do you search the internet, and if you find something on science, how do you work out whether it's biased or not? How do you then put that together in a language that policymakers will understand? And once you've got it, how do you disseminate it? How do you make sure that they're actually aware of what you've done? So the whole chain, starting from gathering evidence through to putting it in a form that decision makers will understand. We did training along all those different elements.
Excellent. So what are some of the major impacts that you're seeing as a result of that capacity building work? What are some of the positive outcomes that you're seeing as a result of that?
I was actually quite surprised. So we looked at a set of policy briefings at the beginning of our programme produced by the Parliament of Uganda. And when we looked at another set at the end of the programme, even though obviously it's not scientific, it was a relatively small sample, there's a very clear difference in the clarity of the briefings they were giving their decision makers and the accuracy of the scientific content and the evidence base as well. And it's not really, I wouldn't ever say it's just one player. There are lots of donors working in African countries, and it's probably the combined momentum of lots of different organisations, but you could see a clear difference by the end of that. Excellent.
So one final question before we wrap up. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about some of your other interests beyond public policy, because one of my favourite things about many of the talented people in public policy is that they often have double lives that many people might not expect them to have, and have some very interesting interests. So tell us about that.
Great. Well, yes, I'm a singer and songwriter in a folk fusion band called Sunday Driver, and we've been going for about 15 years now, which is a long time, and we perform all over the UK, sometimes in the States, sometimes in Europe, so I fit that into my evenings and weekends and the recess periods in Parliament.
Excellent.
sundaydriver.co.uk.
Excellent. And that was going to be my final question. Where can we go to learn more about your work and also more about your artistic endeavours? So
the Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology is easy to find. If you go to parliament.uk/post. It will take you to our website. So post as in POST.
Yeah.
And all our briefings are available, so everything we produce for UK policymakers can be downloaded.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for joining
You're
us, Dr. Nath.
welcome.
It's been
Yeah,
a
it's
real
been
pleasure chatting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.